Come in, Ocean Sailor. Come in, Ocean Sailor.
Going to talk about a really interesting subject that I've been discussing for many years. It's an inquiry that has come in on the Ocean Sailor channel from Janice Brum. She doesn't say where she's from, by the way, but anyway, Janice, we're going to address this one. How much does it cost to go off and sail the world? And I'll tell you, it's almost the same as how long is a piece of string, but there's an awful lot of misconceptions. So, Dick, that's the thing where we go with this one.
Sure, absolutely. And when you've got lots of experience of it, I mean, you can go from extremes such as, I remember covering the Ark many years ago when a guy, an industrialist from Cheshire, had brought his maiden voyage on his new catamaran, which was a £5 million yacht, to start and go and do the Ark. He was a nice guy, a friendly bloke. Cost £5 million did this boat.
Well,
this is a stewardess. It had servants. It had the lot. He said, "Come aboard and look." He said, "This is a joke." This, but even he said it was crazy. There's a jacuzzi at the foot of my bed. So crikey knows what he was going to spend.
Yeah, but hang on. That's a different thing, And I just want to say that despite the fact of my, most people know I am the owner of Kraken Yachts. Actually, I don't believe that you've got to have a Kraken to go off and sail around the world. I don't believe that you've got to have a £2 million or £1 million yacht to go off and sail around the world. I do believe if you want to change your entire outlook on life, actually what you want to do is go and do it somehow. And I want to tell people, my first boat was an Endurance 35, which I did sail the world in. I paid for her back then 20k. By the time I built her myself, by the time I'd finished building her, it cost me 20k. And the concept that you've got to have, a very high cost boat is wrong, and it's not one, despite what people might think, that I actually support. And I can take you today to a boat that's sitting and not for sale, not 30 minutes from where I live here. It's a Tradewind 36. She's on the market at 70k. She's a perfect boat to go and sail off around the world on. And I think it's very important that people understand that actually it's design considerations that are important. The level of luxury that you want to go and do this in determines how much money you've got to spend. But you wouldn't be, sleeping on the sidewalk if you go off and sail around the world on a Tradewind 36. And I certainly wasn't in my Endurance 35. And boats, Dick, didn't you have a Contessa 32?
I did, yeah, for about 10 years. Lovely boat, yeah.
And John Kretschmer, a good friend of ours, John Kretschmer certainly sailed extensively, including the wrong way round Cape Horn, in a Contessa 32. Yeah. There's Rival 34s, there's Nicholson 32s, 34s, 36s. There's Tayanas. Yeah. My previous boat was a Tayana. And really, pretty well, I don't quite know why this is, but probably to do with the size and sea state and wave size, a well-founded boat of 30 foot. And of course, they can be smaller before everybody sends in saying, "Oh, well, I know somebody did it in a folk boat." I did too. But the rule of thumb generally is about 30 foot as a minimum size. And you can go and do it. Now, let's come to the misconceptions, Dick, because you'll hear all the time people talking about, it's about 10% of the boat's cost to go off and sail around the world. That's total rubbish.
I don't know where they get that figure from.
Well, how can you say that? So and we have to define as well, what do we mean by the cost of going off and sailing around the world?
Well, quite.
All right. When you say, by the way, when we say go and sail round the world. It's not something I actually believe in. Add one more letter, which is the letter A, and go and sail around the world. That's going to be an awful lot more fulfilling than just trying to tick it off that you've gone and done that. I think you interviewed Shay Bly, did you?
Sir Shay, dear old Sir Shay,
yeah.
Great guy. I mean, as you know, he's been around the world the wrong way for his what he called his stunt voyages, and he did all that, and he made his money, and good luck to him. And then some years back now, he did, and I was chatting to him, and what are you up to, Jay? And he said, well, I'm now going, I can't remember the boat, forgive me, but it was a cruising yacht, a good one. And he said, I'm now going to go around the world again, but this time I'm going to stop. I'm going to look at all the places I sailed past.
That's really the thing, Dick. You know, I've sailed across oceans and I enjoy long voyages, sure. But the interesting parts on those voyages are the day you leave and a couple of days after, and a day before you're getting there, the anticipation of getting there. And the bit in the middle is what you just got to do to get there. And if you're going to sail round the world as a project to go and sail round the world, you're going to be following the weather patterns around the world and leaving areas because they're becoming cyclone areas, and you're going to have to move on quickly.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a lot of sea. And the seas are different levels of blue in different parts of the world. But once you've run out of the idea of seeing a different coloured blue, and you want to actually, go in and see places and understand the cultures, because it is a beautiful world still. And it's a fabulous, fabulous way to take your whole home with you.
Yeah.
And not because you can, like a lot of people did, you can go off backpacking and do all that sort of thing. But that's, you probably run out of patience with that quite soon. Most kids that go and do that, as I did, maybe 12 months is about as much as they'll take at that. But when you're going off and taking your whole home with you, that's a different story altogether. It's a fantastic thing to do. I would say that, wouldn't I? But I have been doing that and still looking forward to the next voyage as much as I had on the last voyage that I just got back on.
And that's lovely. And oddly enough, it just reminds me, I went to the annual Cape Horners dinner before Christmas down in Portsmouth. And one of the statistics that came out of that, forgive me, I can't remember the figures, but what was quite striking is that, more people have been up Mount Everest, many, many, many more than have sailed around Cape Horn.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's out there.
And the thing is that people need to be, I want to encourage people to just go and do it. Let's start with a place, which isn't really the question that was asked. Let's start with a place. What's the boat going to cost?
Yeah.
Now, if you were talking about, if you believe in the same features that I do that a boat's got to have, you laughingly called them the 10 Commandments. You're going to have to address that in a slightly different way. You want an integral keel, you want a fully protected rudder, but you don't have to buy a Kraken to get that. It's fair to say. You can go and buy a Tradewind 36. You can go and buy a Nicholson 32. And you can go and buy the Contessa 32. And Dick, and you and I have been looking with our friend John at boats that he wanted to buy. You can pick up a Nicholson 32 for 30k.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less than a bloody car, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
This Tradewind 36 that I'm talking about is on the market for 70k. And I'll tell you, it's immaculate. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful. And, that boat would be very compatible to going off and sailing the world.
Yeah, sure.
Different level of comforts, I will agree. If you want the aircon, you want a generator, you want water maker, you want a lot more mod cons.
I would argue if you want all that stuff, you don't want to go around the world anyway.
No. Well, I do, Dick. And this is the point. This is the point.
Okay.
The point is, when are you going to do it? Because what is happening nowadays is very different to what happened in my youth and in my younger years. People now are going off to sail around the world at the end of their career, having amassed a nice lot of cash, hopefully, have a property that's best part paid for. And those people, and I'm the same, I don't actually want to go and sail across an ocean and take 2 or 3 weeks doing it, and then 2 or 3 months and 4, 5 and 6 months afterwards exploring that region, living camping style.
No, I understand.
Right? I don't. So I want a water maker, I want a refrigeration, I need a generator and all those things.
Fair enough.
But go and do it at the start of your career is my advice to you. Is what I did.
Yeah.
I did before I got the family. I built my Endurance 35, but you can go and buy one of these boats at I'm going to say almost no money. And it'll have the features that you absolutely need. I recently was sailing in, where was that now? In Madagascar. I'd say recently sailing, a couple of years back in Madagascar. The boat alongside me was a 40-year-old Endurance 35. Brilliant. And those boats are available because they built them right.
Yeah. And
they'll outlast your production boats. They're going to outlast it 10s and 15s and 20 years far after they're forgot. Those boats were built bomb-proof to go and sail oceans. They've got the integral keel. They've got the heavy layup. They've got the fully protected rudder. And before you've even started, you've got the 3 key issues that you need to consider. And those kind of boats won't cost you much money.
No.
And there's a good few of them. Hans Christiansen is another one.
Rustler 36, another good
Rustler 36. Yeah. There's plenty of those boats out there. So let's try then and unpack and answer Janice's question, which is how much does it cost? So the first thing you've got to say is, well, what boat are you going to go in?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, there is an advantage in there, definitely, and this is not a sales pitch. People say that. I don't give a damn. It's not. There is an advantage in having a new boat, and it's that your maintenance costs are going to be a lot lower right at the start. Let me tell you on White Dragon, she's Kraken 66. Let me tell you that the cost of maintenance of her is around about 3% of its value a year. You hear this figure, 10%, it's going to cost you 10% to go off and sail. With a super yacht and a skipper and an engineer and a hostess, you're going to be into 10%. But you're talking about 2 or 3% to keep up a well-built boat in the first place. One of the heaviest costs is going to be the cost of replacement of sails. If you buy good sails, well-made sails, you should get, depends how good a sailor you are, I suppose you can say, and look after your sail. And I watch people and I see the sail flogging all the time, and all I can see is pound notes or dollars flying off the end of the sail. But if you look after your sail and you sail protectively, which is what I think you do when you're cruising, whereas you sail aggressively if you're racing, then I think you should get 7 years out of a set of sails. You'll have to put them in every now and again to have a sailmaker go over them, make sure you do get patches on before, stitching time saves 9, comes from sail making. And
UV strips and all that as well.
UV strips, but you should get minimum of 5 years. If you have laminate sails, you might not get more than 5 years. 7 years, 10 years even for a well-built set of sails out of hybrid Spectra or heavy gauge Dacron, something like that. And of course, smaller boat, smaller sails, less cost. You're probably talking about on a 32-foot boat being able to put a decent set of sails on for 6 or 7 grand, maybe no more than 10, less than 10. So, that's, you're talking about amortizing that over, 7 years. So that's £1,000 a year. That's cost you. Big deal. Your insurance is a factor. But again, if it's a less costly boat, that's a smaller figure. You can say a rule of thumb is about 1% perhaps for an insurance cost to sail around the world and to go off cruising. And just a little tip on that, you don't insure the boat for the world. You insure it by region, right. And there's a different cost. And then you update the insurance company and the underwriter where you're going to be next. And, you know, that's a lot more cost-effective way of insuring your boat whilst being in the site in the region. You can't be all over the world at one point, obviously.
Just on that point, Dick, out of interest, does the number of time zones if you've sailed through, does the premium go down? I mean, do the insurers think this guy knows what he's doing? He's gone.
No, not really.
Doesn't really happen.
They want you to have some experience.
Yeah.
And they want you, and you'd have to have that to be a yachtmaster, a yachtmaster.
Yeah.
And you should go and be a yachtmaster. I mean, in Britain, it's a rare thing now in British coastal waters. You are quite entitled to go to sea in a bath if you want and be totally uninsured. And but that's a rare thing around the world now.
And use a road map.
Yeah. It's a road map. I've seen it all happen here, right? But no, you kind of, as long as you are qualified yachtmaster, which they are going to expect you to be fair, right? Yeah. Not an instructor. You don't have to be an instructor, but go and do your course. And you can't very well say, "Oh, well, I've stopped at coastal," when you're going across the Atlantic. It's not much of a coastal trek, that one. So go and get your yachtmaster's certificate and go and sail the world. And I reckon you'll be into 1.2%. And different regions are more expensive. America is more expensive generally than Europe because of the liability of accident and whose fault it is and enormous costs. You will find that you can sail the unexplored parts of the world and still be well insured. You know, the Philippines, Indonesia, pretty well all of the Pacific, I think. But you will be warned that your insurance will be invalid if you have stayed kicking around in a cyclone region in the wrong season.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, you should, you know,
it's kind of
this is self-preservation, really.
Well, yeah.
That leads you to that.
Common sense.
But so, and I'm going to exclude in my summary, I'm going to exclude the cost of berthing, which people might say, "Wow, that's ridiculous. Of course you've got a berth boat." Well, no, actually, if you're off cruising the world, you're going to mostly spend your time in anchorages. I want to explain something that you can't purely say that, because you will have to clear in and clear out of countries. Mostly those clearance in and clearance out costs are free or low cost, but they will probably direct you to a marina, and you'd have to get a berth in that marina to be visited by the custom. Not necessarily. Could be a port that you go into. There may be some port dues. So it's not totally without cost. But then you've got your marina costs. I'm saying exclude that, because if you tell me you want to sail this summer in the Mediterranean, and you want to be in marinas, and you kind of get enforced a little bit into marinas, especially on the western side of the Med now. You know, there's a lot of places you can't anchor. That's another story we'll cover in Ocean Sailor, anchorages. But most of the time you're going to be at anchor. But if you're not, and you say, "Oh, I want to go in a marina in Palma in the summer," well, yeah, I tell you what, you're into a nice few quid there, because it will cost you an arm and a leg there. But can you include that in the cost of going off sailing? So I think there's another thing as well. I want to exclude going and eating ashore. And why I want to do that is because you might want to go and eat ashore and have deep fried locusts in a street market in Thailand, or you might actually want to go to a Michelin star restaurant every time you go abroad. So we can't really legislate for that. And you've got those same costs yourself, haven't you, in your own lifestyle? You know what you want. And so I'm saying that's excluded. So what really is included is the cost of diesel, running your boat. Most likely you're going to have a cost to that. There's solar panels now, of course, that really heavily mitigates that cost. You haven't got to necessarily run generators. There's the cost of replacing your sails. And there's a cost of maintaining your vessel. And here's the drop dead number. If a couple can afford to live in any element of London, in my view, you can afford to go and sail the world. I mean, you've got your boat cost first. I agree, you've got to pull that up first. But the cost of going and doing it is cheaper, I think, less costly than living in any decent city or any major city in the world. And I don't mean, if you're talking about London, I don't mean the, cost of living in South Kensington or somewhere. I'm talking about the actual, just the cost. So where are we coming to? It depends on the maintenance of your boat. Go on, Dick, sorry.
No, I was only going to say, getting back to your earlier point, which again reminds me of some of the interviews I've done over the years, that you should really do it when you're younger and not wait until you are in your dotage, which I know a lot of people do. There's a reason why they shouldn't do that. But I have come across people that did do it when they hippie type sailors who've gone off, lived aboard, and then got old on board. They've got no property ashore, and suddenly everything's gone up in price. They have got their aches and pains. The boat's starting to wear out, and they can't really afford to look after it. So I don't know. That's the other side of the coin, of course. But there are you. I mean, I'm sure Will knows these people. A lot of them are in Gibraltar. They never got any further.
Well, you find that people have.
That's just life, isn't it?
You find people have rocked up and stopped, and because they like where they are, because the cost is really nothing.
Or so they're scared and they don't want to go any further. That's also the case.
Yeah, not really.
Sometimes.
Well, that's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's kind of different story, Dick. That's not really, your cost of going off and sailing around the world.
No, for sure.
What I will tell you is there's a funny old thing which I call the 7-year phenomena, and that is that when a boat is 7 years old, you suddenly find there's an awful lot of things. They all seem to build up, and then you've got to do quite a decent refit, maybe, and so that can be expensive. But I'm talking about White Dragon's costs, and definitely less than 25, 30 grand a year in maintenance. We do a lot of the maintenance ourselves. That's a big boat. Yeah, that's with a lot of kit on it.
Yeah.
Batteries will need to be placed every 5 years. That's true. But,
the other thing again, Dick, just to come back to you on that, I remember when I was with you on White Dragon in Turkey, we were all getting ready to fly home. We'd come to the end of our, whatever it was, fortnight. And we went into, might have been Bodrum, I can't remember now, but we went into a marina because you want to leave the boat. And this guy tried to shoehorn you into this tiny place. And you thought, I'm not going to go in there. You could have got in there, of course, but you were thinking about getting out and the wind being in the wrong direction. You said, no, don't worry about it. He said, no, you come in. He said, no, it's okay. And you went out and you anchored. And I thought, that's what it's all about, because you can anchor anywhere.
It's true. And I'll tell you, Dick, my preference is to go to anchor.
Yeah.
My preference by far and away is to go to an anchor. It's easy for me to lift the dinghy up because I've got davits, so I can run ashore, and I've got my own little island, haven't I? Okay. And then you don't get all the scams going on. You don't get all the noise.
No.
And all that. I know where you're talking about. I'm trying to think where that was as well. And this guy was saying to me, no, come on, it's fine. Yeah, well, he meant it was fine for him.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't mean it was fine for me. And I just thought, I can see what's going to happen here. And then, I'm going to hit something else, or there's going to be problems. And he's going to say, that's never happened before. And I see you later. So you do have to just be wary of the marineros. Just be wary of the marineros that are telling you, it's all fine. They mean fine for them. Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of a bit of a side. So let's get to the nub of this. I'm going to tell you that you can do this easy on 30, 40 grand a year for a couple, including maintenance of a reasonable sized boat. I'm not talking, about doing it in a super yacht. I'm not talking about having crew. I am talking about going to the markets and buying the local foods. That's great fun. It's what I like to do. I did join a friend of mine who kept asking me if I wanted to go on his 40-meter yonga. I've never been so bored in all my life.
Really?
The crew are doing everything. You know, you're expected to eat on board with a 5-star chef. What's the point of that? Why did I want to be in Dubrovnik, which I was? Why do I want to be in Dubrovnik eating on the boat with a chef? I want to go, even if I'm not going to go and buy the local foods, which I wasn't even able to go and do, go to the market and find out, you know, the honey and the cheese and the meats and all the rest of it, the local stuff. I wasn't able to do that because that was a cruise job. You know, I just had to break out. I just thought, I'm not doing this. And I went ashore, and I suppose it's a different mindset. But anyway, come back to it.
Yeah.
I reckon exclude your lifestyle ashore. Look at the running costs of your boat, insurance, 1%. That'll tell you the figure. Replace your sails let's say every 5 years. I reckon you sum all of this up for well less. I'm going to say 30 grand a year. I think is all it would cost, and certainly well less than 50. And I reckon that's a load less than people expect it to be. But think about it, Dick. You're anchoring. You're free of charge.
Yeah. You
haven't got a car to maintain.
No.
You haven't got house bills to pay for, because that's not free of charge, is it?
No.
If you go to the stage of educating yourself to do your own maintenance, it's going to drop further than that.
Yeah.
Buy your spares in places that are good value. That's easy to do, and keep those all on board. And then, you know, travel the world and see the cultures and you know, the excitement of going to a street market or somewhere that's completely you've got no guiding light for. You're on your Jack Jones. It's all brand new. I went into a place which was in a place called Nosy Be in northern Madagascar, and we went to the market, and the town was called Hellville. And it was very aptly named because as a foreigner, as a white-skinned person, we were jumped all over, and we literally had to bat them off. And they were just trying to be friendly, and they were just trying to sell you their vegetables and push them in front of you, jars of honey and all the rest of it. But fantastic experience. Yeah. And then, of course, you can take your provision off and you can go and explore the bits of of Madagascar that no tourist will ever go to. So, I hope I'm promoting this as strongly as and as passionately as I do feel about it. So
I think one point you did mention, which reminded me again of something similar that happened to me. I was doing a story for one of the yachting magazines, which took me out to Malta. And I had to stay on this 200-foot schooner, steel schooner, beautiful yacht, but it had the crew all in the. When I turned up, I felt, oh my God, I had to rush off and buy some decent clothing. I didn't even want to go out the gangplank in the stuff I was wearing. But I was ushered on. I had my own cabin, you know, with about 4 different beds in it. We were under awnings, and I was served those fantastic food. I thought, wow, I could get used to this. But after about day 2, I thought, can we go sailing? I've had enough of this sitting here. And all they want to do is polish this, polish that, polish it, varnish this, varnish that. And I thought, that ain't the way to do it. They're just waiting.
No, it isn't. It isn't the way to do it. I also don't think you should be trying to do it on an absolute shoestring.
No.
Because then you will avoid doing, perhaps, or not be able to afford doing mandatory maintenance that you've got to have on the boat. But the less sophisticated the boat, you know, the less costly all of that is. Another factor that's quite important in considering your cost is, well, where are you going to go? Because if you're going to sail the Pacific Islands, your cost is going to be very different than if you want to sail the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
You know, just the cost of living. But that's the same, you know, all over the world, isn't it? And, you know, if you wanted to go and sail up the East Coast of America, then there's going to be a different cost to that than there is if you go and sail the wilds of Vancouver.
Yeah.
So, but
or
the
even the
point,
Caribbean.
the point is really to save up a bit of cash, get yourself a boat, and we're going to do. I've been asked about it before, and you brought it up. The 10
Commandments.
10 Commandments. We're going to do that shortly in an Ocean Sailor video, and I will explain to people and what I figure are crucial issues in the kind of boat that you need to do it in. And it won't be telling you that you got to straight off and go and get go and sell your house and your business and everything else and pull up 2 million
would
quid.
You say
that's a good thing to do?
Yeah.
I mean, it makes it life easier. But
exactly. But in your case, I mean, all right, let's mention Kraken very briefly. I mean, the Kraken yachts are beautiful boats. They're well found. I can say that. I don't own one. Okay. So I'm still impartial, I hope. They are lovely boats. They're quite complicated boats. There's lots of systems on them. Now, the thing is, you understand those systems. Now, not everyone's going to be able to have that.
No, and that's a game part of it. That's a game part of it.
So, but your advice would be to even somebody with a kind of more basic boat. Still, you must actually, you've got to train yourself up. It's no good relying on someone else all the time.
Dickie, I'm going to tell you this. When I first started sailing off around the world, and people asked me, "Oh, what do I need to do to go and sail around the world?" I used to tell them, go and get your yacht masters, do celestial navigation, learn how to do all of that stuff. And actually, it's still important. But after some years of sailing about, I used to tell people, go and learn to be a mechanic.
Yeah, I will believe that.
But you don't have to be able to rebuild an engine.
No.
But you do have to know how to do your own maintenance.
Yeah.
What spares you want to carry. And the big thing here is having the kit to do it with.
Yeah.
We will cover tools and spares in an Ocean Sailor video as well. And they are vital things to have along. And once you've got all of those, you're ready to go. But don't make the excuses of it's all going to be too expensive for you. Just get out there. And you don't need to start talking about buying every publication known to man about a cruising guide. Use some common sense. You'll find your anchorages, and off you go. Really, I do hope some of the people listening to this will do it.
I'm sure they will. Just a quick follow-up to your advice about being mechanic, which I think is an excellent one. I mean, I was always a bit. I've got no problem with sailing. I can splice. I can do all that stuff. Knot ropes, blah blah blah. But it was engines. That's why most of my boats don't have engines. I was kind of like afraid of them. It's pathetic, really, when you think about it.
Well, but diesel engines have come a long way, and so have generators.
And over the years, I've forced myself to understand I can now bleed engines and change the filters and all the rest of it, which is no big deal to most people, but it was to me. But the important point I wanted to make was that until you do that, even when you get someone else to do it, you don't know he's doing it properly. Now I do. I can watch someone and hang on a minute, he screwed the filter on the wrong way. The seal isn't on properly. So you reach the stage where you can do.
Okay,
you are the expert.
This isn't really part of this discussion, but let me tell you the mindset that you need. Get yourself understood that you are not going to be always in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And you are not going to always be able to call a technician and say, oh, something's gone wrong. The big things that you need to have in the very first place is a boat that is extremely robust and fit for purpose. That's a different story. We're not on that now. But what you then need, without any question of any doubt, is the mindset that says, I am taking responsibility for myself. I understand what I'm doing, and I realise that there's not a beam me up, Scotty, and there's not a phone a technician, and there's, start gentle. Don't go straight off into the Philippines or the middle of the Pacific. Don't do that, but gradually build yourself into it. Learn about your boat. learn every part of your boat, learn how to do the basic stuff. And, obviously, if you're talking about an engine, you're not going to be the average Joe's not going to rebuild his engine. Yes, no. Sure. No. And you can get a hell of a surprise and find that, the engine that you bought in your boat needs to be replaced and so forth. And of course, that'll set you back a nice few quid if you've got to. But I'll still tell you, that you're likely to stay within that 50k a year band, Dick. 50k a year for a couple. And I reckon you go off and you sell. And another thing as well, which I also will say, is you don't want to be doing it either as a pauper. So there's the other side to this coin. So, for example, you have to see your boat as a vehicle to see the world. So when you rock up in South Africa, known for fantastic place to go on safari, don't leave yourself so penniless you can't go on safari. I'm not saying you have to go and, call Last Days of the British Raj and have them take you all round, in a super expensive one. But, try and get a bit of balance. And I think the cost of living in London for a couple is certainly a good way of looking at it. Somebody said that to me fairly recently. Cost of a couple living in London will take you enough money to go and sail around the world, which is why I said it before. And I believe that to be true. And if your budget's, if you've got a little bit of an income coming in, that's all very handy, but it doesn't have to be thousands, Dick. No. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands coming in. You just have to want to see this adventure and do it for yourself, and you can do it. And you're talking about the type of boats, I just want to bring this back again, the type of boats we're talking about, if you do drop back 25, 30 years and you do look at the kind of boats we've mentioned, you are talking about a cost of no more than a decent car. And there you go. Yeah, but that vehicle, that long-keeled sailing yacht, that will take you a lot further than your car, I'll tell you that, and take you to much better adventures and much more intrigue than you're ever going to do running up and down on the school run in your Range Rover.
God forbid.
Yeah, God forbid. Anyway, so I hope that's and look, back to the same message we finish every video on, Dick. This is the Ocean Sailor YouTube channel, is about feedback, is about people telling us their experiences. It's about spreading the word of world cruising and ocean sailing and blue water cruising, as it used to be called before it was corrupted into being any water that's blue. Absolutely. But, so tell us if you think I'm wrong, if you think it's more expensive than that or even less expensive than that, then tell us. Yeah, we'd like to hear. People can get, there's not hard and fast rules for any of this stuff, really. No. Most of it's bloody common sense. Absolutely. I do hope that we'll get that feedback. And any questions on any subject, as long as it's related to world cruising, blue water sailing, passage making, all of those, living on board sailing, then any questions, just click them below, send them in to us on the comment section, and we'll pick them up and we'll answer the questions.
No question. We will welcome you aboard.
Yeah, and Janice, I do hope that answered your questions.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Wish you plain
all
sailing.
The best. Bye-bye.
Plain sailing. Bye. I wish you fair winds and easy seas.